Hey, greetings everybody, it's Umbra here, doing a video on Wotv. That's right, I haven't given up on it, I just kind of haven't been that interested in talking about it because this year has been going pretty bad for Umbra, and in Wotv. Let me clarify that, it's been going pretty bad in Wotv. Basically hitting if any character I want this year has just been essentially obtained through pity, or months later when the character is long and truly out of any type of contention of actually being really all that good anymore. It's been a little bit frustrating, but here you go. Let's talk about the news and some stuff to do with related to the news. So first off, what I wanted to say is the FF14 event is going right now. Both Einsteinian and Grahatia are doing pretty well for themselves. The new Vision card has offered up some support. We're going to see how the new month and the new character changes things, but for now, they are doing quite well. If you're wondering about them, they are like premium tier units, and they seem to be quite strong in the meta, as I've seen them already in limited Guild War to extensive use in parties right now. But let's take a look at our new character. First character for the month of July will be Forel, who I believe is just the maskless, or the masked girls. Just basically their new version of those characters in here. So let's take a look at what we have. First off, this is a Sword B type character. Not only that, but she is a magic type character and a light elemental character as well. All of this kind of interesting from a perspective of, hey, this entire year has been incredibly light dominated with new units. We've gotten no short supply of new light elemental characters, to the point that it's felt pretty substantial. The big thing, I think, at the moment is whether or not a team is capable of surviving long enough to get into range against range type units. And not only that, but just in general, like Garuza is a force to be absolutely reckoned with, and as such, he is kind of a nasty opponent to deal with. So whether or not that is going to be further beaten by the new characters, that does seem to be the general trend. I will note that this year in Wotv has felt very treadmill-y for a gacha-based game. And by that specifically, I mean that, well, it's just the way it is, where like new characters are out power creeping older characters much faster than they previously have been. So yeah, that's kind of my impressions of it. So you can see that we do have Rune Knight on there, as well as like Chain Blaster, which is a newer type job. And we have a new main job for her, Holy White Knight. Interesting seeing some Holy Knights. Maybe that means we're going to see some other Holy Knights when Tactics gets re-released later this year with a collaboration. Here's hoping. So, Commander ability, Whisper of Victory. Anyway, activated at the start of battle, increased resistance to all attack types and debuffs for all allies with Sword of the Warrior group as their main job, Great Sword, Gloves, for these equipment types. So there you go. It's going to be interesting seeing the numbers on this, but I think that this should be pretty strong in terms of resistances. We'll see just how strong once it actually comes out. But most new units, given the general level of power creep, don't end up, at least until a few months down the line, as an actual commander unit. So I would expect that's the same here. Limit Burst removes... Let me just double check this, because I think I might have misscanned that. After removing all shell and buffs from up to 2 targets, deal 2 consecutive magic-based damage extra large. and activates a second ability. Increase all light ability attack and all type attack resistance for all allies within range. Pretty nice limit burst here. It does kind of paint her as just being a light-based focused character, but that's okay. I mean, it's a little bit weird. Almost everything in light this year has been physical-based, and if you're looking at like other types of characters, like for instance, a magical slash-based character, well, that's Garuza, but he's a dark element, which doesn't necessarily not work here. But if you are going to be using Garuza with this character, then you're not going to get the light power-up boost. So this is curious. I mean, it is just a light tribute attack power-up that is more than useful with physical-based characters. The reduction of and removal of shell, as well as buffs from targets, is just generally strong enough to be run with multiple character types. I'm just curious how well this gels with what light is currently doing and whether this pushes that light in a good direction, or whether I'm going to see one of the most disappointing things that I constantly see this year, which is just the newest characters. Yeah, like a lot of the times it feels like right now, it just doesn't matter. You're just sticking whatever the most strongest, most recentest character on, which in this case is kind of just Garuza. That's what I've seen with the FF14 characters. It's kind of boring because I assume that we're just going to constantly see this treadmilling of always the strongest, but that's not particularly that interesting to me, just as my own personal opinion of this. All right, taking a look at her last ability here. Increase own magic attack, damage reduction, penetration rate for 3 turns, destroys magic spikes on up to 2 characters, greatly reduces debuff resistance rate, then deals 2 consecutive light magic damages, reduces agility and slash attack resistance penetration rate for 3 turns. So a pretty big ability here that does a bunch of things. Magical damage, also interestingly increases magic damage reduction penetration and magic spike. Once again, just another new character that is kind of removing that spike-based effect, which we saw earlier in the year, which feels pretty disappointing that it's just countered so easily now and just removed by like what feels like in quickly increasing number of characters. Also greatly reducing debuff resistance rate and all of that. Maybe to partner a little bit more with Zac? I don't know. I think that in general with this character, sorry, I'll scroll down. I was looking at a different screen while I was doing this. There's the limit burst. You can see the high range on the limit burst and the decent diamond pattern on the secondary effect, which will probably be good for buffing some other characters. And the range on the second ability is smaller. Now, yeah, well, okay. Master ability. Own slashing attack resistance penetration rate up of 20 and single target attack resistance of 10. I don't know overly how I feel about this character because I feel like, again, from what I've been seeing lately, it's just the strongest characters. And it would be more remarkable if this character ends up just being bad when she comes out, because like I said, we're treadmilling right now. It's just constant power creep is what it feels like. So as such, do I think Pharrell will be probably pretty good? Yeah, I think she will be. But that's the common trend here of just being the newest, strongest character till the next newest, stronger character. I wouldn't predict that she probably will have a more than a 3-month lifespan for being super powerful, but you know, we'll see. So that's that. Let's take a look at some other stuff. So in the month of July, not too terribly much noteworthy here. JP is just going along as per usual. However, the next story chapter is coming out. 3.14 Part 3. Now, what's interesting here, this has been billed on the most recent live stream as the climax. That's right, we're finally climaxing in this story. Took long enough. So yeah, does this mean the end? Not necessarily. climax of a story can definitely be the big moment, but there could still be some after. We'll have to kind of wait and see. There hasn't been really anything announced yet for major story implementation in the near future, so that would kind of point to the fact that we're probably not done yet. Maybe there's a second climax still to be had. Either way, this might be a pretty monumentous moment, so I may actually do a story-based video about this really soon, looking at all of chapter 14 from book 3. New sword for Pharrell. And as for this, we're going to be having a little bit of a BGM festival by the looks of it, where different themes will be available based on just essentially the concert event that will be happening. That's kind of cool. I do like celebrating the music in Final Fantasy always. I'm not super jaded about that yet. Also, new map for Light, Fire, and Wind. Kind of feels like this year in a nutshell. We will also be having a Grando Arena, which honestly at this point not even really that interested. So moving on, we will be also looking at just a Phantom War Day, which doesn't really mean much to anyone else, but I'm covering all the news, so there. So yeah, Pharrell is our new character for the month of July, a character that probably is some people have been waiting for a while. I think that it's pretty logic. I like her design and everything. I'm just not particularly excited about new characters because the game hasn't given me a reason to be excited about new characters, just giving my general lack of luck. Or depending on how you look at it, if you consider the fact that every character this year I have not been able to pull on banner, that's an incredible amount of luck just in the other direction. So yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below, and thanks so much for watching. Take care. See you later.